What is up, everyone? Doug Polk here, and we have a very special announcement today. I've made day 2 of the $10,000 WCOOP High Roller in first place, and if you're not first place, you're, well, of course, last. So, we're in first place. Up top, we've got 650K, and I want to do a quick video on this tournament because of how special on occasion this is. Now, a little bit of backstory, I actually made this exact final table 2 years ago, and I ended up busting to sauce in 8th place despite having almost the chip lead moving in. So I have, I guess, a second chance at redemption. But what I want to do, I want to talk about the table, I want to talk about, the payouts, I want to talk about, the stacks, and show you guys a couple of the big hands we played today, so that you can get an idea for what went down, some of the great moments, and if you want to tune in tomorrow, of course, you're going to be up to speed on what's going on. So let's go ahead and hop onto the table. Currently at 436,000 chips. First place is 656,000. Second, 484, 387. Sorry. So we have 436. We have a nice sizable lead on second place, who has 313. And we have 2x, or over 2x, I guess, 7th place. So definitely a good size lead. Now, one thing I'm pretty pumped about with this tournament is that the bubble hasn't even hit yet. 39 players will cash, 56 players are left. So definitely going to be some bubble abuse. And even at our table, we're going to see some of these guys, some of these mid stacks are really going to suffer because they need to get that cash. And even if they want to ignore that they need to get that cash, they're going to have to punt off money to do so. So in this spot, being a chip leader is extremely valuable. It's much more valuable to be the chip leader when there's only when the bubble hasn't burst yet, compared to when the bubble has. So great spot. On that note, let's go ahead and hop into some of the hands that went down today, and we're just gonna kind of scroll through and talk about some hands. So let's see what we got here. Let's see if any notable hands. Here, that one was against Jakun. Nothing too crazy. I thought this flop was kind of interesting. I could have really gone either way. Let me pull it up. So he opened up under the gun with Jack 10 of spades. Get a big blind flat. And on the flop, there's a lot of merit for both options here. Betting, of course, probably the more profitable play. You build the pot, you have a good hand. But I also do like checking this hand back sometimes, because that way it protects my check back range. Can have some top pairs, some flushes, etc. So small pot, but figured I might as well note it. And also, just having some trips in my range here when I do bet this turn, it's going to have a lot of value. Not too exciting there, though. Let's see. Let's go to one of our bigger pots. Here we open aces against Stevie 444. Under the gun. Stevie flats the button. Definitely standard play with king queen seems good. We bet the flop, get a call. Actually, in 2 places. I thought the turn here was kind of interesting because, okay, an 8 obviously not that great for me. I can't really have an 8. Not going to bet those on the flop. But here's the thing. Neither of my opponents is likely to have an 8. Stevie's not flatting the button pre-flop with too many 8s. Maybe 8-7 suited or 8-10 suited. But in general, he's not going to have an 8. So really, even though this turn looks like it might be a little bit scary because of the trips, it's not versus Stevie. And the small blind mind gamer, think about a small blind flat range. Lots of Broadway hands, lots of pairs, not many 8s here. So I went for the turn bet. Of course, with our signature 1-3-3-7 size, got a call and a 9 clear check, and one small pot. So we started to get a little bit short, and we're basically grinding for a little bit. Let me see if there's any more interesting hands I can remember. Ace queen here. This one was kind of interesting. 3-bet ace queen facing an open. Check back the flop. Sorry, actually no, sorry. I bet the flop here and got a call. Pretty light float for my opponent, but seems reasonable. Check, and this is a river situation. I think a lot of players play too nitty. He decides to bet here out of position, and we get a call with ace queen. Rather, we call with ace queen. So even though it does suck, don't get me wrong, he can have flushes, he can have straights. At the same time, what jacks really float on the flop? Maybe ace jack of diamonds, maybe a hand like jacks or jack 10 suited, but not really many jacks. So he's kind of saying he has a flush, and that's just not going to be enough here to fold hands that could be chopping. All right, so maybe let's try and find some actually big hands, because we're talking about some pretty cool hands. Let's put a filter on this guy. Let's see, pot size. Between, let's say the pot's between, oh wait, that's actually stack size. Pot size, here we go. Pot size between 20 and, let's look at the big pots. All right, so. Don't know why it does this sometimes. Okay, so it's not going to work. Ah, the wonders of PT4. Okay, so let's filter this instead by pot in big blinds. All right, so this was our biggest hand of the sesh. And actually, this kind of sucked while we were streaming because I had to disconnect the stream because we were so close to the delay catching up to the hand that I didn't want my opponent to be able to see what I had. But, I mean, this is a pretty standard hand, really. He opens the cutoff with ace-jack. We go for the 3-bet on the button with kings. We're going to want to have some suited connector type bluffs here as well, of course. But definitely a standard re-raise for value. Got a call. Not really too interesting of a hand in my opinion, but we do bet the flop, barrel the turn, and jam the river. So let's talk about his call a bit. When he calls the river with ace-jack, the reason he's thinking this is a good hand to call with is because he blocks my ability to have jack-jack, ace-ace, and ace-queen, as well as queen-jack. So when you see this call down, you're like, oh man, middle pair went to town. But really, his call makes sense. Like, this hand's probably a better hand to call than jack-10, queen-10, where you block 10-9 and king-10, they can be bluffing. So I see what he's saying here. Tough spot for him for sure. If he thinks I'm bluffing too much or I'm an aggressive opponent, he kind of has to call this down. And this is definitely a spot where image can help get you paid, because this is a spot I'm going to bluff. It is a very good bluff spot, and having that aggressive, I guess, image can get you paid off with your overpairs as well. 10-3, we're not involved in this hand. We're not involved in that hand. This hand was pretty sweet. Pre-flop definitely on the marginal side, but under the gun opens, and we're approaching the bubble. So we raise with ace-9 suited on the button. Got a 4-bet, and we're getting 2.4 to 1 in position with ace-9 suited. Kind of hard to think of a range we're not getting about this equity. So we take a flop. And he just check folds on a 9 high flop. Obviously, an amazing flop for us, so we're very pumped to get in on the flop. But what can you do? Okay, so this is another great hand where we want a lot of big blinds. I felt the turn was close, but decided to call. Another gun +1 opens. We flat in the small blind after a button call with the king-queen of bigs feet. Check call flop bet. And turn the NFD. So on the turn, we're getting 2.5 to 1. Oh, I was pretty miserable about this. I did think we could maybe beat a few bluffs like lower clubs or king-jack or queen-jack, chop with king-queen. And then also, you know, we can get there on a jack or a club. So out of the position, this sucks. In position, it's a much more clear call. It really shows the value of position, I think. But we decided to go for the call. And obviously, as it always goes when you run deep in tournaments, we nail a jack on the river and ship the pot. So well played by me on the river. But still, I think a relatively standard hand. Here we open up queens under the gun and face a button jam with 7s for about 15 blinds. Totally standard from Bartek here. Just pretty unlucky for him, really. And then jacks here as well. This was a fairly defining moment, I think, in the tournament. You really have to be able to win some of these flips in order to take it down. And we get it all in with jacks against ace spades, 11s, ace king. Flop a jack and hold to essentially secure the double up. So those are really the main hands I think that we played. I think there was a check raise in here that I want to put in that I thought was pretty cool, although we didn't win that big of a pot. Got to work in those bluffs, guys. This is against Mustafa Knit. He opens up, flat, small and jack 9 suited. It's a pretty good hand to play post flop. Check, 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 and check raise. So we're of course representing that we can have a flush or queen jack. I think he's mainly going to have a hand like king, queen, king, jack, or queens when he bets here, and not going to be willing to call it off. So got that one through. Check out their cookie jars out, and yeah, so it's pretty sweet. So anyway, that was a little overview. Let's actually look at the chip graph really quick from this tournament. So you can see we started off, got down to minus about 20K, of course, when we busted our first bullet, and then our second bullet got all the way up here to 400 and whatever thousand chips. So we're going to be back at it tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. PST. If you want to tune in, up top, 660,000 chips. We're going to have whole cards reveals. So it's going to be a great stream. Hope you guys can stop by. I want to show you a few big pots and just do a quick summary of the tournament because of how special an occasion this is. And hopefully I can redeem myself by not getting 8th place this time at the final table. If you're interested in this kind of content, as well as poker news, poker highlights, stream highlights, all that type of stuff, subscribe to the channel, help it grow, and support the cause so we can give you more poker content. Here we go, guys. I mean, I told you there's not going to be overlay. Mustafa Kanik got in there now. True Teller's back in. You guys are noobs. We only need 2 more entrants, and then there's going to be no overlay.